Hi everyone, as promised this is my second clip for this week, and this one is based on the moving pillars of doom. So what I've done is I've created a very simple little level, and all you've got to do is get to the other side. Yeah, the pillars are moving randomly up and down all over the place, and we have to get across. Now I was picturing this like the what would be inside the Jedi cave, and this could be one of the levels that you have to access across. So I've got all pillars moving at different speed, different rates, and that is molten lava. So if I fall in that, I'm going to die. Yeah. So I'm going to try and judge this jump across, and this is part of my Jedi training to get across on here. Oh, get quick. Oh, straight to the middle pillar. So I've got some pillars that don't move, that allow me to climb up and down. I've also got a cool effect with explosion lava going across randomly at different spots. And so the object here is just trying to make it across the level, trying to see which is the best route that you've got to do. Now I'll explain all the levels to it, but there is very little logic needed to do. All we've got to do is create lots of paths, and that's all it is. So it's quite quick. That's why I was able to get just in time. I thought I was going to die then. So I've just made this, and now I'm dead. And when you die, you start back on the last steady piece. Yeah, you could make this really difficult. And that if you die you go right back to the very beginning, but I've just kept it the stage where we do it in stages. Yeah, so we're going to jump across. So you just made it there. Right, so I've gone to this pillar. But like I say, I was trying to think of this as being the Jedi cave in the new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. And this is part of Rey's training. We've got to move across onto different sides, and we're looking for different routes to get across the moving pillars of doom. Yeah, so I've now got to get across, and I'm not going to make it across those boxes, so I'm going to go all the way across to the big ones. I'm going to time it right. And when I created this, I didn't really think about much. I just put as many pillars on it as possible, and made them randomly move up and down in different speeds, and then hopefully a path would be available to me, and by chance it happened. I'm going to try and jump. Oh, look at that for timing. Okay, how simple is that? That is our level. And that's all I'm going to show you in this clip. Just a straightforward little clip how to create this easy little level where we get across. And now the object here, by the way, is that once we've done our level, I've used a toy box door, not easy to say, that could then take me to another level, so I could have dungeon after dungeon or a different adventure with each one, so keep them quite small and compact. But let's show you how to put this together and see what you think. So starting with a blank canvas, what I've done is I've used the path creator in my creativity toys, and I've just created a number of vertical paths, and I've just scattered them across on one brick. You'll notice here I haven't actually put any other terrain on. I think this is really as big as you need it to be. You could do more, but it'll take absolutely ages. But all I've done is made sure I'm quite reasonably high up above the ground, done my path tool, and I've just gone down and created a number of options. So here I'm just going to line them all up, and they're all exactly the same level, by the way. And then I'm going to count them down as I go through the bricks. Now I put 10 dots just to make sure I kept the same space. So I was counting the size of them, so I made sure they're all roughly 10 to the same size. But obviously you've got to make sure they're spaced further apart, because they're actually the bricks that I'm going to use, the basic shapes, are quite wide, and a couple of these I've got them too close. So again, we can move these around. But again, I just tried to fill as many across as possible, and we set them all up. So instead of you watching me create all those, that's all I did. And although it looks quite a lengthy time, and when you do this you can go, oh, it's going to take you ages, you could do this roughly in about 15 minutes, get those all done. And then I've created all so they're all my moving pillars. Okay, so that's my pillars done. Then what we're going to do next is look at adjusting the speed of those pillars. Okay, so we're going to go to each one of those path tools, and we're going to adjust the property setting to them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to one of my pillars here, go to the little green dots, go to the properties of it, press the square button and go to properties. All I've got to do now is just change the speed. Now the speed can be from 0 to 300. Yeah, and I have to say, if I was going to do this again, I would range all my pillars from between from 0 to 150. I think 300 was too fast. but try and keep the range so it goes slow, medium, fast, slow, medium, fast. So don't group all the fast ones together, spread them out and make sure each number differs from each particular one, so you don't ever use the same setting for any of your paths. So we've now gone through, and I've now gone through all those, and I made sure every single one of those is different. So if I just randomly pick one of these points, you'll see here the property setting here is 130. Now I won't use 130 again. I may use a 133, I may use a 127, but I'll never use that reference again. And I've just gone through and made sure each one has got a unique reference. So this is a 40 speed. Again, try never to make sure no one ever has the same value. So that means all of them will be moving at a slightly different rate, which is quite cool. So our paths now are all created. Yeah. So what we're going to do is prepare the lava and the pillars. So I've just jumped ahead here, and what I've grabbed here is from my terrain tool. I've grabbed a lava chunk. So if you go to basic shapes, you'll see here large lava block, and you've got other tools, other ones to do here, but I'm just going with the large one. I'm just going to set this on level in line, so it's just in line with my my path, just so I've got a good idea where they're going to appear. And the pillars I'm going to use are my basic blocks, which are the square blocks, these ones here. So these, when I join them, will all be pointing to the bottom of the path. So I wanted to make sure that they seem to be in line with it all. And now what I'm going to do, just so while I create this, I'm now going to make sure I put the pillars just above the path. So you'll notice here I'm making sure it's well above it. That'll give me enough area to now fill in the lava. So first of all, I'm just going to make sure I put the pillars around. And the reason why I'm putting the pillars on before I do the lava is so I can see where they all are. It's a lot easier to visually see where the gaps are going to appear. So all I'm doing here is just line it above it, which makes my life a lot easier. Because when we put the lava out, you're not going to see the tops of the paths. So it's going to be a lot harder to find where to stick them. So I've put these all above them in the screen, so I know directly below each one is an actual path tool. Yeah. That's the main reason why we've done it there, because once we fill that ground with lava, you won't see the top of it, and then it'll be a lot harder to try and find them. At least this way we know that the path tool is directly above. And you'll notice here one of those path tools, by the way, is too close. That second one there is too close. So I think that one's going to have to go, so I'm going to have to delete that in a moment. So we'll take that path one out. That one's okay, I'm quite happy with that. But that one is going to clash with the other screen. So if I go into Spark mode, point to that path, sorry, that's going to have to go. So occasionally you can get it wrong. I'm just going to hit there and delete that out. Okay, and so I've gone through each one of these, and as like I say, I've scattered them above all the particular types. And like I say, I think you can do these speed-wise between 0 and 150. I did my one 300, and I thought some of them were too fast. But yeah, anyway. Right, I'll just finish off now moving those boxes all the way over the rest of the map. But regarding Disney Infinity, one thing that attracted me first was the quality of the figurines and the characters and the collectability, which was quite good. And we started out on Disney Infinity 1, and I didn't get my head around the toy box probably till version 2, when I realised what you could actually really do with it. So I just played the levels, and that was it. So I know the whole part of Disney Infinity was to do with the Toys to Life, but what I want to know is, right, and I'll give you feedback below, if they released a game like Disney Infinity, but there were no figures to go with them, you could only digitally download those figures, you could pick any character, would you prefer that than actually having the figures to buy? See, although the figures are dirt cheap now to get hold of, yeah, I would, and I've mentioned this before in other clips, but I'd just like to know your feedback, so put your stuff in the comments below. But would you have preferred to have more digital content to download? Okay, now like I mentioned in here, the histories, I'm not a great microtransaction type of person of all these, but I would have bought add-on items. So put in your comments, if you were going to buy additional content, would you do it to start with? And if so, what characters would you have bought an add-on, even if they didn't mean you got the statues? I say, put your comments down, and I like to have a good read. I read every single comment you put, so it's always good to hear. Right, so as you'll see here, is I've now finished all the levels in my box. Yeah, so I put them all there on the screen. Yeah. So look at that. That's them all done. So every single pillar's created. So now I've got that set up. If I go back to my terrain option, I can go and pick out my various lava boxes. Now before I start filling them all in, I'm just going to pick on the exploding lava option. And what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to line these lava gaps up so they're into blank spaces. Now what you'll see here is I mess around quite a lot here because I was trying to make sure that it would instantly I could fill in the boxes. A lot of times when I do a mapping and you're filling in the landscape, I've got chunks, little gaps appearing, which is so frustrating. But just recall, the map here isn't that big, so you'll see here I'm being really fiddly of trying to make sure I line it all up, trying to make sure it's exactly a squares gap. Wouldn't bother that with that at all. I would look for gaps where your pillars aren't appearing and randomly scatter these boxes about. Because the area of the lava pit is not going to be that big, it's not going to be a big job just to slightly adjust it. So where you'll see here I'm being very careful, trying to make sure it's perfectly lined up. So therefore when I fill it in, it instantly is going to be perfect fit. I messed it up anyway towards the end. So basically what I would do is look for gaps, make sure the lava is obviously all on the same level, but scatter some exploding lava points to different blank areas within the screen. Now the only logic we're going to add to this level is a repeater linked to a randomizer that will then get different erupting lava boxes to explode. So again, we just need them scattered around because we're going to have different items at different screens. So I'm just going to speed this up to where I was when I had my created all these boxes, because otherwise it would be all day while I was trying to count these all out and find the different gaps in my map. So right, I'm going to just finish off my last box here. So there's my last erupting lava block scattered in the map. So now we're going to do the only logic that is actually within the whole level. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my creativity toys. So we'll just move ourselves down. And I want different sets of different explosions to go off. So I want 3 to go off at one time, another 3 to go off at a different time. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a couple of logic gates. So let's go and find my logic gate here. Dun, dun, dun. Where is it? There we go, logic gate. Right, so for the different sets that I'm going to have, this one logic gate is going to do set 1. Yeah, that's going to do set 2. That's going to do set 3. And that's going to do set 4. So I've got 4, and we're going to go for 5. So let's have 5. So I've got 5 different random locations that are going to explode. Yeah. So that's going to trigger off. I'm going to send a signal to those to trigger those off. So what I'm going to need here is I'm going to need a repeater, I believe. Is it a repeater? Yep. Where's my repeater? Dun, dun, dun. Calendar tool. There you go. I want a repeater. I want something that's going to constantly repeat every so second. So I'll just put this here in the meantime. Yeah, so that's going to be my repeater. So I need something to start that repeater. Yeah, so what we can do a level starter. So as soon as the game loads up, it will start my repeater, and my repeater will then randomly generate some numbers. So the next thing I'm going to need is the randomizer tool. There you go, randomizer tool, and I need that there connected up here. Okay, so the logic I'm going to do here is when the level starts, when it loads up, new logic connection. When it starts, can we go to our repeater and can we switch it on? Yeah. Now we'll look at the properties of that repeater. That properties is default, I think, is 5 seconds, which is probably about perfect. Every 5 seconds we're going to have explosions go off, so I'm happy with that. So I'm going to leave that as 5. Because I don't want the same one. I want them to explode and disappear in case it chooses the same one. So new logic connection on this repeater. When we repeat, can we input a signal into the randomizer? Well, can we do an action? And the randomizer will then generate a random number. So we can say new logic connection. When it fires number 1, can we do our input a signal into the first logic gate? Okay, and so on and so on. So when we do trigger number 2, can we do our second logic gate? Right, input a signal in there, and when it does trigger number 3, you got it. Can we insert, so trigger number 3, can we input a signal into logic gate number 3? And the last one, new logic connection. When we get trigger number 4, can we input a signal into there? And the final one, when we get trigger number 5, new logic connection when trigger number 5, can we input a signal into there? Okay. So now that we've done that, I've now got to link those logic gates to the different exploding lavas. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure every one of those boxes is picked to that particular group. So I'm going to go onto there, new logic connection on output, and let's pick one on the front row. So we'll go with this one. Can we have the thing explode? Now we could have it start, which means it's constantly exploding, yeah, but I want it to go off at different places. I don't want it to be all the same case. So I'm going to do one on this line, so new logic connection on output. Let's pick a different one over here, and we'll have that explode. And I'll probably do 3 a set. So I'll do one more, new logic connection, and pick a one, probably one here. I'll have that explode as well. So again, setting that signal up because that repeater will set it to. So there's 3 set up to that logic gate. So I can now go to number 2, and I'm going to set a 3 up on that one. Or you could do 4 if you wanted to. So new logic connection, and I'm hopefully going to pick ones that haven't been selected. Yeah, so new logic connection to explode. And occasionally you'll get confused which ones you've connected and which ones you haven't. So new logic connection, you'll see the join that it goes to, and when you click into a box you will see if there's any previous connection to it. There's no connection to that, so we'll connect that item up there. So I've only got 2 on that one at the moment. So that logic gate there's only got 2 connections, so this one's got none, so I'm going to do another one here. So again, different sides. Sometimes I've got 3 going off, some I've got 2. So that one's not connected to anything, so we can do that one. New logic connection on output. We get that to explode. And again, this is really the only logic you need. You don't even have to exploding things in there at all if you don't want. You could also have more than one logic gate pointing to the same lava eruption if you wanted to. That gives a bit of more dynamic setting, more randomness to the explosions appearing. Again, it's down to your own choice how you want to do it. Each logic gate can be just connected to one if you want. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be the same type. Now as I finish that little section off, I'm going to just speed this up for you, but you get the gist of what you've got to do now. I've got to go to each one of those and connect them all up to my 5 logic gates. So let's speed this up. Now I've got them all connected to my logic gates. What I'm going to do with my pillars now, I'm just going to change the format of my pillars, and I'm going to choose this tin roof style, which gives a good section like it's been hot and cold. But you've got to change the colour of these now before they start moving, because it might be hard to select them all. So what I'm just doing now is just going to set the theme. This is the theme how I want my pillars to look. That's relatively straightforward. Now before we connect the pillars, I've now got to fill out the area lava, so I'm just going to click onto my lava pod first just to pick it up, and now when I pick it up it will set my brush to that tool. So now what I'm going to do is just now click them up and join all those boxes together. So I'm just going to go and fill all these in and fill all the gaps in. Now depending on how big your map is going to be, with your lava don't have too much so it takes up memory, but you'll see on my panel on the right hand side it's hardly moved, so it really is quite a small map, so it isn't really that demanding, so it doesn't matter if you just did all these single squares. And all I'm going to do is just going to go through each one of these, and I'm just going to fill this all out and try and cover the ground up as much as possible with red lava. So again, I'm going to speed through this for you so you don't have to get too bored. So let's jump along with this one. And here you go, something I prepared earlier. So we now have the lava all the way scattered throughout the toy box, and also we've got the toys on the screen. Now what we're going to do is, as you saw there, I collected on the first pillar, clicked on it, did new logic connection, and did connect to path. And you'll see the pillars moving up and down. And I've just raised my spark tool above the path so it's not pointing to the path, and then redid my connect when the pillar went green. And then I was able to go to the path properties and set that to back and forth. Now I did that quite quickly, so I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to point to my pillar, click onto the square button, new path connection, go directly below it where the path is, connect onto the path, the object will start to moving. Then I'll raise my spark up, select it and go to path properties, then go all the way down to the movement type and change it to back and forth. Very quick. Did you see that? Let's do it again. So pick the next pillar, select it with square, new path connection. Okay, obviously if you've got an Xbox, different control button, go directly below that, click onto my little drop list, connect to the path, move my spark tool up. When it's highlighted, select it, go to properties of the path, and then do movement, and then change the movement to back and forth. That's relatively straightforward. And again, you've got to do that for all your pillars. Now, this whole video and construction of it and testing of it, I did in one evening. It's really quick. Yeah, it won't take you that long. It looks like it's going to take you longer than you think, but it really is quite short. So it's a quick level to create, very simple, and hardly any logic used whatsoever. And again, it's quite a good little challenge to get from one side to the next. So while I go through and connect these up, I'll do another speed up, so again you don't have to watch me do all these ones. So I'll speed up the clip to get these pillars all moving. There you go, and there's my final thing. All the pillars are moving. So what we're going to need to do now is we're going to just do some standalone bricks. Now this is to make it that you can get so far along. So I wanted like a pause area. Now my question I've got here is, which one of these bricks is not an erupting square? Well, the only one I know that is those big square boxes. So as long as I stick it on one of those big square boxes, I know no erupting lava is going to be it. And the maximum height is 3. So I'm just going to find different areas. And again, none of this I actually thought too hard about where I was placing these. I just was finding gaps, and I wanted to make sure they were not close enough to jump to each other. So you had to use the pillar. So all the rule I had was don't have these fixed points too close to the other fixed points, so you could theoretically miss the pillars altogether. You had to go on the pillars. So, and again, I just randomly stuck it on. The more you think about it, the more unnatural the flow of the game becomes, I find. So I just chucking it together, and hopefully you'll see it. It just seems more dynamic. Just seems more more genuine, if that's a terminology I think you could use. I'll do another one over here. And remember, do the big squares so that you know you're not selecting your erupting lava. The last thing you want to do is put it on top of an exploding lava one. I don't know what would happen if you did actually. Would the whole pillar go in flames, and if you stood on it you'd die? Might be. You'd have to check if that works. I didn't think that one through until now doing the clip. So there we go. We just put all these little items on, and we've got our various different resting points. And all that leaves us to do now is start putting the land and the ledges around the side of it. So I've got my fixed points, which look quite cool. Yeah. So if I go back to my spark tool, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and pick my terrain options. So let's go and pick my terrain. So let's go along here. Now in my terrain option, let's look through the terrain. We've got various different settings here. One thing I realised here is because my moving blocks are only 3 high, when I grabbed my ledges, they were very high up. And one thing I found with ledges where they were too high, when you jump down, as they're moving away too quickly, it wasn't good enough, so I didn't want them as high up. So then I've got the smaller ledges, and even they were too high. So I was like, what was I going to do? So then I thought we'll do a stepping stone. We'll cut the ledge in. So I'll use a single panel instead, which is a little bit lower than the actual square boxes. So if you look to the left of this, on these properties I've got, I'm just going to pick this ledge here. And this ledge was just small enough which I could then make sure I could line them up perfectly with the highest block. So I could just raise that up. There you go, that's about perfect. And I'm going to use that ledge there on the screen. So just fill these in. So I'm going to lower them all up. I didn't really think, did that fit perfectly? Is it going to be half across? So I might have to move it across, but it fitted quite well, so I was quite happy with that. Right, so I'm going to use now just some blank squares, and I just wanted to check that the height between them wasn't too high. So let's go back to my terrain, and let's get my little tool area. That was way too big. Get these little small ones. Right. So if I use that now on the lava, so if you look here when I put it down, there's just a little ledge down. Now all I've got to test there is when I put that in, can I jump back up? So if I have the ledge on the other side, will I be able to climb over it? So I just put a couple of bricks in here, and then what I thought I'd do is just double check to see how that goes. If I come off this, come back as right, what I can do now is I can just test this. As I run across, I can jump down. Perfect. And can I jump back up? Yes, I can. So what I need to do is now just carry on filling in that landscape. So I'll just carry on going. That works for us. So I'm happy that's ready for us to go. So let's go back to my tools, pick up the box, and let's start filling this in. I mean, you can play around with different options how you want it to appear. So I've got this box. Now I'm going to put a starting ledge. That's too small, so I'm going to do a big square here now, which is my starting ledge. And when we're going to appear here, this is where the user appears. It doesn't have to be a big area. If you wanted to, you could do it like a very tunnel, and you have to crawl through the tunnel before you get to this. So give the impression of a cave. You don't actually start right in the middle, so you could expand that option out. And then I can use these panels here down the side. And this will give me my area where I'm just obviously going to cover it all in. I want it high enough so you can see where you're going. So I'll have that one on that side and that on the other. And I'm not too worried about the eye side of it because you're going to be inside it totally, so you'll never see what the big giant square box. So that's not too bad. So let's speed up now once I've done the landscape. So the landscape will now be done. Ta-da! And there you go. There is the landscape all filled in around it. We've got our moving pillars. We've got two ledges either side, and our user now has to cross there to get through to the other part. Okay, and all I'll then do is cover up the top with more landscape, so therefore it's then sealed unit. So what I want to do here, as it's a sealed unit, when we load up, where do we start? And that's why I come down and grab my little Disney Infinity badge, which is our starting point when we load. And I position this on my side, on this side of the map. So when we load up, we will ultimately be inside this cave, and I'll have it making sure that it's pointing the same direction. Now on the other side, what I'm going to use there is I'm going to use and this is where I mumbled the last lot. Go to my gameplay toys, I think it is. I'm going to use a toy box door. And I will just go through a couple of the properties in a bit later on in this clip, but basically we can then link to other levels that we've got. So we could create like an Indiana Jones style. We have the rolling ball, we have the spikes, we have the moving floor. You could do the pillars, and then you could do like a Frogger level, which is the next one, and you could do each one, and they just connect up. So you keep them all as separate, but they move across on the screen. Okay, so I'll put that in. Another thing you could do also is you could also put a boss fight in. So when you get to the other side, you could have a boss fight on here. So if I go back to my creativity toys, I could put in a big giant boss fight. So if I go up and go down to the boss fight, but just be wary when you do a boss fight. I don't know why you have such a big area, but you do have, when it was the boss fight, where it's quite a big section that you have to fill in. So in my case, my map's too small. I'd have to push the area further back for me to have that fight. You might just land in. I'm not too sure why I do that. But again, you could try and squeeze that on. But again, give you different ideas or different things that you can do with this level. Yeah. In my case, it's just to get to the other side. Now I think the green's too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the landscape and make it a little bit darker. Yeah, because I thought even with the lid on, the light green is too heavy on here. So I'm going to choose something more mystical. Because remember, I'm treating this as the Jedi cave. It's a bit more mystic. So I'm just going to point to one of the landscape tiles, point on there, and again choose my various options. And I think I went with the Atlantis type style. But again, you could look at different types of landscapes you're doing. If it's a snow cave, if you're trapped down here, it doesn't have to be a rocky cave. It could be any type of cave you like, because it's a Jedi temple. It's a Jedi worship place. Well, we'll find out at the end of the year in The Last Jedi when they release us what she actually finds in that cave. Yeah. This could also be a secret entrance into a military base, which is why it's not guarded and you have to get through. Depends how you want to mark your story. So there you go. There is the Atlantis option. So I'm now going to choose that as my template and colour everything in. And it's a bit more of a darker grey. Look at the soil, but it's quite dark grey because I quite like that one, which is not too bad. So what I've done now is I've saved the level and I've now put my roof on the top. And now that I've saved the level, when I load the level back up, it has started my lava exploding in the screen. So you now see the lava exploding through each section and then randomly blowing up, which gives us that cool effect. Now this is the thing that I hadn't looked at, but this is your toy box toy. And now if you play the game or look at the hub, it will go through into properties how to do this. But if I look at the properties of this door, you've got a couple of options. Where's the destination, where it's going, is it automatically, do you have to confirm this option? When you go to destination, you can link it to another group, but you can say, right, let's link it to an existing toy box, but it's only got this one toy box open. So I was thinking, where do I go? You actually need to go back into there and you choose import. Yeah, so you actually choose import toy box. So you import one of your toy boxes. When you click onto import, then you'll notice then it will load up the list of all your toy boxes that you've currently saved. Yeah, and then you can pick on that toy box and that will allow you to join those two together. Now someone posted in my last clip I've just done that they can't save anymore. Saving seems to have stopped. Well, the reason why saving might have stopped is you have 350 slots, and those 350 slots also counted for any downloaded you did before the server switched off. So if you can't save, you've probably used them all up, so you need to delete some of your ones that you don't use anymore, some of your old ones, and that'll allow you to save the new levels and link those together. So you could have that one door, we could have several doors on there that will lead you to different routes. Now another other feature you could do is if we go to our creativity toys, you could have a checkpoint. Okay, so I could put a checkpoint on, and what that checkpoint will do is that when we load the game up on the level starter, we could set the checkpoint as this section here, which means that if we do it at this end, if you should die getting across or fight invader at the end, you are instantly brought back all the way back to the other side. Yeah, so you won't start on the top of a tower, you die, you come back. So if I click onto that, you want to link a connection to there. So if you go down to your level starter down here, which we've got hidden in the corner, if we say on start, yeah, so new logic connection, yeah, on start, we then point back to our checkpoint. Yeah, we can say, can you set that for everyone? So can you set that, so new place, for absolutely everyone on the screen. And then you can change the properties of that thing to be invisible. So you can make it hard, it means you have to cross it in one go. Just depends on how mean you'd like to be. But there are different things you can do with it, but the toy box is really done, that's it, finished. So it's ready to save and see if we can do it again, but see if we can do it in one go. So let's load the level back up and let's give it a run. So load it back up, taking all the objects, and now what I want to do is get through to the other side. And the longer you leave it as well, I've noticed with this type of thing, is because they're all different times, they're not repeated. So if you wait a while, you'll find each pattern is slightly different. Some pillars go up quicker and slower, they're not always the same. So just keeping an eye on them, some will overtake as well. And what I need to do is get to that pillar. There we go. Yep. Yep. Not too bad at all. Now remember, whack your like if you think it's any good. Give me loads of your feedback. tell us what games, what Disney characters you would have liked, or any characters you would have liked. So, what ones would you like to have seen? Now, our family are big fans of Kim Possible. We would have loved a Kim Possible character. I saw a couple of draft drawings. That would have been quite good. I loved that cartoon. Thought it was brilliant. Obviously, you had plenty of Star Wars characters you could have purchased. You could have bought loads more of those. There are other areas I would have liked to have seen. I tried to avoid looking at characters they were making and the ones they'd stopped, because we're still gutted that it's finished. But, and I've just thrown this clip in, by the way. I've just thrown this clip in, but again, this shows you the different type of games you can create. So theoretically, I'm now creating a platform game. Yeah. And the games that I've done, all my games are like the open world type thing. I haven't even looked at the camera work yet, where I can make it a 2D side-scrolling mission. We haven't even done side-scrolling. So I promised everyone that I'm going to be doing Disney Infinity clips for at least to the end of the year. But I haven't touched on like a whole other side of the level making that we can do. I think I've got loads of stuff to be doing. So I'm going to keep using Disney Infinity. I just hope that the studio in Salt Lake City that originally did it are working on a new version, a new variation of something similar that allows us to create adventures, because there's still nothing out like this. So there you go, 2 clips this week, and that's really basically to say thank you, because it was a while between my last ones. There's going to be another little break for about a couple of weeks, and we should see some more coming out in the middle of August. Enjoy the rest of your summer holiday, guys, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers, speak to you later.